Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of the Nerdy Things podcast. This week, we're going to take on time travel. How are you today, Jules?
I'm doing pretty good, Kevin. It's a wonderful day. How is everybody out there in podcast land? Let's hear how y'all are doing. Fantastic.
I don't hear anything.
Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine the people. That's what it is. That's what I do. Yeah, whenever I podcast, you imagine all the people around you.
Oh, fantastic. That's really creepy.
That's a trick. For more tips and tricks, stay subscribed to the podcast.
Once again, I feel like I should have put on pants.
Yeah. I think that's going to be a recurring thing. Yeah. Kevin's need for pants, always. How was your week? How are you doing?
I can't really complain. It was a pretty busy week. Just trying to look and stay busy, and I was sad with the passing of Bill Paxton.
Oh yes.
Yeah, one of two men that has the distinction of being killed by a Terminator, a Predator, and the aliens.
Yeah. I never really thought of it that way, but yeah, he is. Yeah. He's one of those guys.
One of two. Lance Henriksen is the other one.
Oh, okay. Trivia. Kevin's trivia. Hashtag Kevin Trivia on the Twitter. But yeah, that was really, out of nowhere, I think, and nobody was kind of expecting that, and it just kind of happened, and it rocked.
Yeah, it's not like we knew he was sick. He had some heart problems, went in for surgery, and just awful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know how to segue out of this, so I'm gonna make it awkward. So this, let's go ahead and recap. Let's go ahead and finish talking about last week's episode. And if you haven't listened to last week's episode, all things Lego, you definitely need to check that out. Episode 2, go check that out right now. Pause this one and listen to that one first, and then come back, and we'll be here. We'll still be here. So I went to go see Lego Batman. I really loved it. No spoilers at all. I really enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. But I have a, deliciously awkward for you, if you're ready.
Oh boy. Go ahead.
It happened when I was at Lego Batman. So, first I'm going to ask, you go to the movies probably a lot more than I do. What's your go-to, food and drink, or do you get anything at all? Do you get candy, whatever? What's your deal?
Depends on what theater I'm going to. If I'm going to the theater where I work, then I get popcorn, soda, and I usually get one or two things of candy. And I mean, don't get me wrong, this lasts me a couple of days. It's not like I binge on it, but it's cheap and it's good, and I can get, Reese's Pieces, mix them with the salty popcorn, and it's heaven. If I'm going to the real movie theater where it's super, super expensive, then I make my wife pay for snacks, and I get an icy and have a little bit of popcorn. That's it.
Hell yeah, icy, fucking great. So yeah, my that's all classic. I enjoy it. I like it. I like what you're doing. For me, I guess I always get a pretzel and no salted pretzel, just because I like movie pretzels. I know they're pretty shitty. They're in a little baggie, and I know they just probably put it in the microwave, but I don't know.
Boring.
I enjoy it. I don't know. The pretzel with cheese. Get at me. Come on, fight me. But then I also got popcorn. I also get popcorn, whatever. And when I was getting popcorn, the guy was like, do you want butter on top, or do you want butter kind of in the middle? You want it, but whatever. Do you want butter all the way through? And I was like, oh, that's nice of that guy. Hell yeah. Throw butter everywhere. Whatever. Fuck it, So I was like, this is going to be awesome. I'm eating the top of the popcorn. I'm excited for the movie. I go to sit down. The person I went with had some napkins or whatever, but I don't really ever grab napkins because I'm kind of a cleanly guy already. But then I sat down, and then I had the popcorn. I put my hand on the bottom of the popcorn and fixing myself, whatever. And I take it out from underneath the bottom of the popcorn, and my hand's soaked with something. I thought it was my soda. I just grabbed my soda. I think you know where it's going, but I thought I just grabbed my soda, whatever. I was like, oh, okay. And then I just wiped it on my pants, and then I'm like, oh, this is on the bag. And I was like, oh my goodness, he just soaked my entire popcorn bag full of butter, and it's just coming out of everywhere. It's just leaking, dropping
that's-
drops, and I put it up to my face, and I could just literally see the drops of butter just falling onto my pants. And
Did he think you got lobster instead of popcorn? Because that's the only time that much butter would really make sense to me.
Right? Maybe it was because I was too excited. I was like, hell yeah, dude, sure, like whatever. And he's like, oh, this
Go nuts.
Yeah, yeah. He gave me the okay. I don't usually get to do this, but here's all the butter.
Yep.
So yeah, that was on my shirt, and that's how it was on my pants. There was drops everywhere, and I was like, well, and that was a good way to start Lego Batman. But that was my deliciously awkward, and I ended up enjoying the movie.
That's better than my awkward experience this week, where I had to explain to my boss why I took my name out of the running for a promotion.
Oh,
That's a nice awkward conversation. It
Yeah.
basically amounts to, I'm not qualified, which is something you never want to say to the
honest.
guy who employs you.
No, but I mean, at least you're honest. How did that conversation go?
It literally just went like that, and then I looked for any escape and went, oh, you need help, and ran away.
You over there in the distance. Do you need,
Yeah.
do you need
You're
my
waving to
assistance?
me? No, you're waving to someone behind me? I'm going to pretend you're waving to me.
Wow, that's weird. Yeah, and is he cool with that now? I guess.
I
don't
guess.
know.
I've avoided him since, so we'll find
Okay.
out. I'm sure that'll be the topic of next week's Deliciously Awkward.
Oh boy. Yeah. So I just wanted to get into that because it involved me going to Lego Batman, and also thank you for all the hate y'all have been sending us. It's great. We love it. Apparently, a lot more people liked Hook than I thought, and I kind of want to get into just to just close off last episode. We got some messages and people saying, like, talking about Hook, how good Hook was. All I thought was it wasn't that great. They mentioned like all the Oscar winners, all the people that were in the movie. I do want to say this though, as a musician, I know the music is amazing. I know the score was amazing, and he's a great, fantastic composer. I just didn't think this was the medium to bring it up in. But yes, I am definitely aware that John Williams wrote an amazing score to the movie. That's not what we were talking about. We were talking about the sequel. And Hook, was it that great? It was all right. Maybe not the greatest.
I think this is a movie that looks great through the rose-colored glasses of nostalgia.
Yes.
I had this fight. Tim, the guy that posted on Facebook that laid into us, full disclosure, he's one of the guys I work with. He is going to be on next week's episode, spoiler alert, because I'm going over his house. We're going to talk about the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, another spoiler.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sorry. You know what? This is a time travel episode. Things are going to be out of order.
Oh, man. Can we
But
wrap
I
it
had
up
already,
now and then
and so that's the episode. All
Yeah.
right, now let's get to the middle of the episode. He and I had already had that conversation about Hook. I had already laid into every one of his points. I promise I will watch it again, but I also promise that it is a movie that looks better in your mind than it does when you're actually watching it again.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about contemplating watching it over again, but I was watching a ton of time travel stuff, so I was like, I kind of don't want to. But yeah, I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it was okay. A lot of people like it. I think it was either you liked it or you didn't. And if it triggered something within you, yeah, okay, cool. But honestly, I don't think it was good enough to make a sequel, 25 years later?
Yep.
I mean, maybe like if you were in the moment, like, hey, Hook just came out, let's talk about these characters. And it's like, oh, okay, they came out together as a companion, but 25 years later is I don't know if it's necessary.
No, I didn't think it was.
Yeah, that's the end of that. To kind of wrap that up about episode 2. Should we get started?
Yeah,
I'm sure it's gonna.
Let's get into this. This is going to be a good episode, I think.
Yeah,
I hope.
I hope. Yeah. Time travel.
Indeed. So I
don't even know where to
huge
start.
fan. I know. I mean, I think time travel is one of my favorite concepts in sci-fi. I'm a huge sci-fi fan in general. And I just love the logical consistency that I think time travel has most of the time, or at least should have. It doesn't always, and there are plenty of movies and books that kind of illustrate the flaws when you get it wrong, but it's like a math equation. It has to balance or it doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm. And you do see a lot of the same things, a lot of the same ideas repurposed in all these time travel movies, all the media books, all the things that time travel is mentioned in. And even if they're just using it as a device to get to another story point, and it's not even quote unquote a time travel movie, it's still whenever they do it really well, it's consistent, and it takes you to this other world, and I think sci-fi is always going to have a place for time travel, in some sense of the word,
Oh, sure. I mean, even if it's just a fantasy thing, even if it will never exist in reality. I made a list of like 32 different movies that I have seen recently, or at least have a general idea of, that involve time travel in some form or another, and whether they work or not. For the most part, they do work. There are a couple that just don't hold up overall. And there's even some, like the Terminator franchise, where the first one is fine, and then the second one screws it up completely because it goes against what happened in the first movie. Yeah. And I just can't reconcile that. Full spoilers for all of this, but in the original Terminator, it's sort of that predestined thing. The Terminators come and John Connor fights them because the Terminators came and John Connor fought them. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and it works because of that. And then in Terminator 2, you get this whole thing where the Terminators are now coming at a different time because of the events in the first movie, and then we're going to stop them, and it doesn't work. It's one or the other. It can't be both in the same universe, and that's frustrating to me.
Yeah, and it goes against like everything they kind of set up, and just to say like, oh, that event, okay, yeah, but I want to do this other thing. Let's go to Terminator 2. Let's try it again, whatever. And it's like, oh well, you can't really do that. Like that. Yeah. That's not how our time kind of works.
No, it's different ideas, and I get that like, where it's not real, whatever rules you set forth, you should follow. And if you are following those rules, I am on board 100%. But I happen to think that like Bill and Ted is a better movie franchise than Back to the Future. Not that they're better movies. That's not the conversation.
Yeah.
But
let's talk about that.
Time travel holds up better.
Yeah, let's say like, no matter what we say, we're going to say, they're good movies or they're bad movies, whatever. But strictly right now, we're going to be talking about the time travel aspect of the movie. So if we say Back to the Future sucks, no, we know it's amazing. We're going to say it's amazing. But the time travel portion of it kind of is not correct all the way, and it's more for the entertainment, I guess. And I rewatched Bill and Ted, and it's a very funny movie, and I really enjoyed it.
And I love how it holds up. They first meet the older versions of themselves, and the older versions of themselves have the answers to all of their questions. And then, like the idiots they are, they completely forget or just decide to live that out again and meet the younger versions of themselves and give the same answers. Yeah. Yes, self-fulfilling and awesome at the same time. I loved that. I think that it works. It's so internally consistent, and it makes me smile because of that, because it's a good story that doesn't have to shit all over the quote unquote, rules that they have set forth just to make the story better.
For sure. And that movie in particular, as well as like a ton of other, time travel things, they deal with certain paradoxes, and one that kind of sticks out, like most of the time, especially for Bill and Ted, they use was the bootstrap paradox. I don't know if you heard of that, or let's talk about that. The bootstrap paradox. I think in one of the Doctor Who episodes, I really enjoyed the way they talked about it, because it happens a ton in Doctor Who, and pretty much like every other time, a lot of time movie, whatever, it occurs a whole lot. The bootstrap paradox is like when you can't really figure out what actually started the loop, or the way the Doctor explained it was, say you're a big fan of Beethoven, and he went through this in one of the most recent seasons with the 12th Doctor, and he's like,
I remember that.
Yeah, it was fantastic like monologue thing, and he was like, say you're in love with like Beethoven, you know all his music, all his notes, everything. You're completely infatuated. You know everything about him, and then you're a time traveler as well. So you go back to go and meet him, and you go back to the time when he should be there. He should be doing this certain thing. He should be writing his Fifth Symphony. He should be living in this town, whatever. But he's not there, and you're kind of waiting. You're waiting. He's not showing up. Whatever. So you, in turn, you know all his music, you know everything else about this person. You, in turn, you write his Fifth Symphony, because where is this guy? Where's Beethoven? What's going on? So then you kind of go through the motions of you writing the music, you writing the Fifth Symphony, all the other stuff. But, you know, who wrote it really? Because the you in the future knew. Time travel gets me so like, backwards, but I mean,
time
you know
travel
what I mean?
is going to be the reason my wife and I get divorced. We know this. This isn't a message we got from the future either. This is just that we fight every time we talk about time travel, which is why I'm recording this when she is not home.
That's as long as you know that. As long as past Kevin knows that, so future Kevin can blame this Kevin.
We're aware of it. I mean, she's teaching Harry Potter in one of her classes, and they're talking about the time turner and how that works. And that's another great example. And this is, you know, book and movie where it works. You know, like nothing about that fights with itself. I mean, we fight about it, but like there's that scene where I don't know, I forget the exact setting of it, but they're fighting, and then all of a sudden Harry sees a Patronus that's from his dad. And he thinks it's his dad, and then you go a little further in the story, and they use the time turner, and Harry is looking at that scene from the outside and realizes it was his Patronus.
Yeah,
and
it was like
he sets it forth. And my wife, she keeps asking me, whose Patronus was it the first time? And the answer is it's Harry's. Yeah, he was there. Like it's just that the story loops on itself.
Mm-hmm. Same thing.
And it works.
The same thing as earlier. Who wrote Beethoven's Fifth? Well, it was actually, you know, the Doctor, because he did it first, and then the new, you know, it just loops around and keeps going, and then Harry in the movie is waiting for his dad, and then all of a sudden he's like, well, I knew I did it the first time, so I just did it again, you know, because he was like, I already saw myself do the Patronus, so I just did it, you know.
Yeah,
and
it's like, self-fulfilling, you know, like his confidence went up, and he just, there you go, did it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's something that occurs a whole lot in time travel stuff in Bill and Ted, where he's like, remember to put the keys here, you know, for their to get all the people out, and remember to you know, where would we put it?
His dad's keys went missing a week ago, so they went back a week and a day and stole his dad's keys
after all the events, and it's like, oh yeah, hey, cool, as long as they quote unquote remember to do that, which they obviously did because it already happened.
Oh, that was my favorite scene in the second one, where the was it Death? Who was the bad guy? It doesn't matter.
Like it was a thing.
But they're like, only the guy that wins can go back in time and do this.
Yeah. What else? What else did I watch this week? I watched Interstellar as well. That's the same thing. It's kind of the same you know, paradox that works that way.
Everything that happens in that movie happens because it happens. There's, you know, they are their own Kickstarter and get everything going. They find out about gravity because of him. He you know, wouldn't have done it if he didn't find out about gravity, you know? Mm-hmm. There was what did I watch? I watched Predestination this week, which I did not enjoy. It was based on a short story by Robert Heinlein called All You Zombies.
Yeah.
Weird story about this guy in a bar talking to a bartender, and he tells the bartender that he's got this weird story, and he explains that he was born a woman, grew up, had an affair with a man, had a child. The man left, the child was stolen. He had a sex change after the birth because of complications, and he was born as a hermaphrodite. And the bartender offers to put him in the room with the guy that left him alone with the child, and takes him downstairs, sends him back in time, and you find out that they're all the same person. And it's like that closed loop of genetics. It just, even the bartender is an older version of him. And in the movie, they added in this weird, like, bombing terrorist plot that didn't have to be there. But the overall story was phenomenal.
Yeah, I think you sent me that story over, and I took a look at it, and it was pretty interesting, the way that okay, so you can set that sort of story up, and that's cool. We've kind of seen something like that over and over again, but the way that it was written was fantastic, and that's what really draws me to a good time travel movie. Because I mean, a lot of the times you see the same tropes over and over again. Somebody discovers a time travel machine, they have some fun, whatever. Some big bad wants to take it away for whatever reason. Blah blah blah. Maybe a romance in there somewhere. And then it's just like, it's the same sort of recycled thing over and over again. But then whenever somebody comes out with a new idea or a new way of doing time travel, it's really interesting. Or the way they word it, or the way, it looks fantastic, or something like that. Something over the top. It just reinvents the time travel aspect of it. And maybe you are seeing the same story over and over again, but then, something out there, some movie makes it so much better, and it really adds to the whole time travel genre.
Yeah, I mean, it may be a touchy-feely movie, it may be, whatever, but The Time Traveler's Wife, great time travel movie. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed that movie.
What's your favorite way people have time traveled? I think it was, for me, I think The Time Machine, is that what it's called? The Time Machine movie?
Yeah, that's just the H.G. Wells Time Machine movie.
Yes, that's just a fantastic machine to look at. I was like, yes, that's how I pictured time travel. Just this huge, turning all these knobs, whatever, all these levers, and I was like, yeah, that's time travel for me.
I mean, I think that's a fascinating subject, because you've got so many different ways where you do it, between, like Star Trek using spaceships going warp 10 around a sun. You got hot tubs and hot tub time machine. Serviced by Chevy Chase for some reason. Yeah. You got magic spells in Army of Darkness with Bruce Campbell.
Yeah.
Just naturally in The Time Traveler's Wife. Through psychic whatever weirdness in X-Men Days of Future Past. Mm-hmm. I think my favorite would have to be a book that I've mentioned this repeatedly already in this podcast. It is the book In Times Like These, where they use actually a watch, and it's just so mobile and so easy to use. I would have to think that would be how it would sort of iterate itself out. People try to make everything smaller.
Whenever I think of like time traveling and watches, I think of that horrible, I think it's Nickelodeon Clock Stoppers.
Oh, God,
probably not even on your radar. Oh, okay.
No, that had Malcolm in the Middle in it, didn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
That was one of my childhood movies when I first thought about time travel, and I knew it was really bad, but for the time, the special effects look okay. And again, that's that whole, it's a tired, storyline of time travel. It's like, oh, look at all the cool things we can do with, this watch, and for the time it looked really cool, but it's just the same kind of story. So that's what I think of. Clock Stoppers now on Netflix. Go check it out. It's probably 1 starred by me, of course.
Yeah. I mean, like there are certain, like I don't like that it's when done wrong, people don't seem to care. I get bent out of shape about that. Like the show Timeless, and maybe people do care because I don't know that it's getting renewed. Mm-hmm. But I just don't understand why, with something like that, with really cool looking time machine, when they get sent back in time and change the past, why they come back and somehow fit into the world again. If you've changed it that much, you wouldn't be born, or you would have different motivations, or whatever.
Or I think even if you change something minuscule, I think for me, or my idea of the way that sort of timeline would work is, everything would be totally different, no matter like what you changed or how big you changed it in. No matter
what I had for breakfast a week ago could change where I am today based on what happened in the meantime. Let alone the fact that you've saved the Hindenburg or whatever the hell they did in the first episode. I never got past that first episode.
But it's still sort of the same when they came back.
Yeah, a little bit.
Weird.
But you know what? That's kind of what I like about Doctor Who is they just kind of say fuck it and they don't care. But they address that. It's that time is whatever it wants to be in that show, and I'm fine with their rules. That I guess works for me in a better way than someone who just gets it wrong from the start.
Yeah, okay, yes, I agree, but totally to a degree, because I really wanted more episodes with Amy and Rory. Like, really, did you really have to explain it that way, where he's just like, we just can't go back to that time. There's too much going on in the time, whatever.
Okay, then go to go to a year before that.
Go
and
to
just
a few years before that and wait, please. Just wait.
No, look, I just saved them because that's all I did. I just went back and they're fine.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, that's it. And it was like, yeah, the actors were kind of done. They had to kind of write them out, but it was like, that was one of the only times when I was just kind of, well, okay, probably not one of the only times, but one of the main times where I was just like, come on, man, really?
Yeah,
you could have done something.
That's the problem with a time travel story, is that why don't you just stop it at the start? Why does it have to iterate through any of this when you can travel back in time and just make things right? That to me is the biggest flaw with them. If you have something that you control that is that big, then there's nothing that has to get in your way. It's like when you're fighting the Flash. He is so fast, you would never get a shot off on him. He would just stop you. I'm sorry, Captain Cold is not a good enemy for the Flash.
Yeah.
Doesn't work that way.
No, I mean, yeah.
But it's the same thing.
Sense.
If I can travel back in time 5 minutes and slap you upside the head before you can do what you were going to do, then why would you do it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a I guess a common thing with Doctor Who, mainly just because that's one of the, that's his thing. Why don't you just do this instead? Why don't you go back a little farther? Why don't you do this certain thing this way or whatever, and just, you can change it. You can make this, not. But then they find ways to say, oh, he can't really do that, or whatever, and it's like, well, we just got to take it. We just got to take what they kind of give us. I mean, while the Daleks are still going on, okay, sure. Why not?
He can't change the past until he decides he can.
Yeah, there you go.
In Doctor Who, there's the episode where they're in a church, and I think it was it Rose decides she's going to save her dad, and when she does, these time wraith things show up and start destroying everything.
Yeah, and then there was like a rip in the time. Yeah. Whatever.
And it's like, we can't change the past. The past is what it is. And then, like, every episode after that, the Doctor's like, we can't do that, except I'm going to because of reasons.
Paradoxes, yeah.
Yeah, and then he does.
Yeah, I'm going to create all these paradoxes and completely blow the timelines out of proportion, and I'm going to fix them. All right, cool. So yeah, that's Doctor Who's in their own thing, I think, and I mean, I'm okay with that. I'm fine with it. I they just keep doing what they're doing, and I enjoy it. It's I think that's the one thing. That's the one show where I'm just like, yeah, the time's kind of wonky, timey-wimey, whatever stuff, but
yeah,
man, it's a good show just to keep it going and to be able to go that long.
I think the most frustrating recent time travel story to me, and this is on my mind now because of Logan coming out, which I'm probably gonna see Monday.
Oh yeah,
it's Days of Future Past, and I just hate the X-Men series in general, but I hate the way that they use time travel in their stories, and it just it makes my skin crawl because none of it makes any sense, and it doesn't even work within their own world. Like none of the X-Men movies do. They're 9-10 movies in, and they all take place in their own separate universe because none of them fit together in any way.
No, I never understood that. I never understood, like, they just keep making them, and it's sort of, it's just the whole thing. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean,
It's like I have 5 pieces out of a 400-piece puzzle, and I'm trying to make them fit, and they're just not going to do it. I know they're part of the same picture somehow, but it doesn't work.
Eventually, you're gonna have to cut something somewhere. Maybe it's in the DVDs. Like you gotta get the Blu-ray, the extra scenes.
It doesn't work because you got in X-Men 1, you got Hank McCoy on the TV. Then in X-Men 2, you got Hank McCoy. And I just can't. I can't do it.
But Logan though.
But Logan. So anyway,
Logan's gonna be good, I'm sure.
But we've already seen the future, and Logan is fine, and now we're seeing Logan, and he's not fine. I can't.
But the movie,
my head.
I'm gonna cry. That's his last movie.
But they time traveled, and then they. Oh God! All right,
another one that I saw. Another one that I liked. Well, I guess 2. I watched it again because I still am kind of weird about it. Primer.
Oh, I like that movie.
Primer. If you have not seen it, everybody out there, this is the one time travel movie that you need to see a few times at least, because you're probably not going to understand it the first time through unless you stop every 5 minutes or so to pick up everything. I mean, I remember when I first discovered it a long time ago, and I was just like, what's going on? And I did so much research on what was going on, and I watched it through again and again, and I was just so intrigued by what they did and how it all makes sense. They don't really give it all to you, and you kind of have to bridge your own gaps between all the timelines, or you can just go on the internet now and look at all the timelines, because that's what I did this week. Because I watched it again and I was like, oh my God, this is ridiculous. I forgot how amazing this movie was.
Hold on, I'm making notes. How do you spell that? Internet? What's that?
It's a thing. Nah, don't even worry about it. It's not going to get big.
I'll Google it.
Yeah, go there. And somebody calculated it out to where there's like 9 timelines going on at one time. And it all just works, and it's fantastic. It's like a low budget movie, and it's really interesting to watch this go down, and to actually see it from like a scientific point. I don't even know if like all their equations work. It sounds like they worked,
but it doesn't matter. It sounds good.
Yeah, it sounds sciencey.
They don't necessarily like get into the actual like physics and mechanics of it. They just kind of gloss over it, and that's fine. I'm 100% with you as the audience. I don't have to know more than you. I just have to understand that it works. I love the spoilers from here on, but I love the way that their time machine functions. I thought that was great.
It seemed, real,
Yeah.
Probably
they're
one of the
they're
most
going
real.
back. Go ahead. I won't interrupt you.
Oh, no. It just seemed the most real, like out of a lot of, time traveling, like it's sort of pictured as whatever present day is to you, whatever present day, quote unquote, for you is. And it's just like these engineers, they crafted this they were trying to do something else. They're trying to make something, I guess, lose the weight of an object to kind of lift it or levitate it or something like that. But then they came up with all this other stuff, and it just turned out to be like a time machine that sent stuff, back in time, and then they decided to send themselves. They made a bigger one, and it just seemed really real the way they would do it. They did it in a U-Haul sort of, what are they called? I don't even know what they're called.
Like storage unit facility.
Yeah, storage unit.
Well, it's such a great story too, because it's the story. It's not the effects. It's not, anything else. This is a movie that had a budget of $7,000.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that? And it was a great story.
Mm-hmm. It was fantastic, and I really like, especially with time, and I think with zombies, I'm a really big just a zombie fan in general, a fan of like the way zombies interact, but more importantly, I love the way that these sort of things affect people and their relationships. So the way that the zombie apocalypse affects your relationship with people and you dealing with the apocalypse and things like that. I love the way that having a time machine affected those people, affected the main character on how he would deal with this, how he kind of just went behind. They both kind of went behind each other's backs at one point, and was just like, it was really interesting to see these characters change and shift, and it's an amazing movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. You know, I saw ARQ recently too, which is on Netflix now. I don't know if you know anything about that one. It's got Stephen Amell's cousin Robbie in it, and it took me, I'm sad to say, most of the movie to realize that it was him, because I sat there going, he looks just like Robbie Amell. Just like him. I'd swear it was him if I didn't know better. Uh-huh. And it turns out it is him. But it was another one that just overall doesn't work. And I'll spoil it and I'll get through this quick for you. But basically, he's living through the same day over and over again. And at the end of the movie, you find out that it's just his house that's been doing this for Lord knows how long, and it could be thousands of years. Mm-hmm. And it works up until the point where other people show up, and those other people wouldn't be there if it's just his house going through this time loop. Mm-hmm. They're coming in from the outside. They would already have been there thousands of years ago, and he'd be dead.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. Shout out to Groundhog's Day, though. Groundhog's Day. You know,
Groundhog Day, that's another one that works on its own. It's the premise is he's just doing it. They don't ever explain how or why. I love that movie. I would watch that movie on a loop, on repeat if I could.
I would watch it again and again every day at the same time.
You know, 6 o'clock every morning. I have it set to go.
Yeah. Just as soon as you wake up, Groundhog's Day, and he wakes up too. Another one I have some shitty ones as well. I had written down Clockstoppers because that was a shitty one, but Project Almanac, which is one that just kind of came out recently as well, which is the same thing. It's
on my doesn't work stuff. List.
Yeah, it was geared towards I guess millennials, because a lot of it is just good, you know, special effects. And why did we need to see her and dancing at a festival for so long? I really don't know. No,
it's an MTV movie. I really have no. That's the only explanation you need.
Yeah. I hope nobody will actually send me hate. If you like Project Almanac, please send me hate. I would like to see who you are, and what kind of life you lead. But that's it. It was just not. That's not a thing, man.
Yeah, I mean, the other two big ones for me that don't work are Looper, which I thought was spectacular effects. Great premise for a story, but I think it was a flawed execution. I think that Joseph Gordon-Levitt looked just like a young Bruce Willis, and I thought that was spot on casting.
Yeah, but I mean, they did CGI to his face.
Yeah, and they did a little bit of prosthetic cheek to him.
Yeah.
But I thought that was phenomenal. But I think that the premise of it doesn't work. And on a side note, I think it was a weird choice to add telekinesis in the world for no reason.
That was one that I watched recently as well. I think a few days ago, and I mean, the way that they were explaining it, the way that they set it up was to where, you know, Bruce had, spoilers. Sorry, we already went through that. As soon as you hear a name of a movie, expect spoilers. But the way they kind of set it up was that the older Bruce, he could remember what the younger him was doing after he had already done it. So that kind of makes it seem like this younger person has a free will, has the ability to change whatever timeline he wants to do depending on his choices. And it's just like, really? Like everything after whatever he's done, younger him has done, is foggy? Like,
yeah, you know what? And that's terrible. The fact that scars would show up on the older version after they were carved on the younger version is terrible. But where this movie really falls apart is in that Bruce Willis is afraid of what the child that they're at the farmhouse. Bruce Willis is afraid of that child growing up. They know it's the same child because of the scar that Bruce Willis just gave him after the interactions of trying to find this child.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells me that all of this happened and that we can't change any of it. But that goes against everything that happened in this movie.
Yeah, so that goes against every quote-unquote decision. Well, not quotes. Every decision that the younger him did.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's already happened. And it's like, what?
Completely doesn't work.
No, fantastic movie.
Yeah.
I loved the cinematography of it. It was beautiful to look at. I enjoyed
and what a premise. I mean, to think that the future mob is disposing of people by sending them back to the lawless times. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. And it was super fun to jump into that.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? But yeah, it did seem like a plot device just to add that telekinesis in there. Oh, yeah, by the way, these people do this sometimes, and it's just a thing. And it's like, they needed to figure out a way. Yeah, they needed to figure out a way to end the story. So
yeah, and just the other movie on my list that didn't quite hold up, based on a short story, is Edge of Tomorrow, or Live, Die, Repeat, as they rebranded it.
As they rebranded it after it came out already.
Yeah, I know. I think they wanted to take their decision back on the time travel movie and realized they couldn't time travel.
Yeah.
Based on a short story called All You Need Is Kill. Short story is absolutely phenomenal. Movie, a little bit less so. Again, they just add weird things to it and change things for what I seem to think is no reason to make it a better movie, and I think they failed at it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's Tom Cruise, who I love as an action star, even if I don't like his politics. He's the worst recruit in this army ever, and by the end, he is the greatest superhero you've ever seen, kicking ass and taking names.
Really?
I love how they get there, but it doesn't make sense time-wise because of anything that they do in this movie.
Everything, yeah. It doesn't make sense. And I don't know. I just want all of it to work. Like, I just want... Whenever you go into a movie, you just want it to work, and then whenever something like that happens, and it just takes you completely out of the universe, even, you know, no matter how good it was leading up to it, and then you see a flaw in something that should have been, you know, ironed out a long time ago. You know, that movies aren't made overnight, and, you know, storylines aren't made overnight, and maybe you could have spent a little bit more time working on that golden story that you had, you know?
No, but I think a lot of these big movies are made by committee, and I think that's a lot of the problem, because not everybody understands the core concept. That's why I think things like Primer work, because it's a much smaller group of people. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it was one pretty much person just him, writing it. Yeah, exactly. You know, same thing with like Hot Tub Time Machine, where it's a passion project like that. That's not that the studio sat down and was like, we need to make this. This is, I mean,
there's a
people
need
are clamoring
for this kind of movie.
You're absolutely right. There's a definite need. No, this is a passion project, and it's stupid. Safety Not Guaranteed.
Oh, man.
That's, you know, frequently asked questions about time travel. Yeah. These are passion projects that, for the most part at least, get it right, or are at least so entertaining that it doesn't matter otherwise.
Yeah, definitely. Especially Safety Not Guaranteed. I have that one on my list as well. I mean, I watched it a long time ago, and it was just like, you know, time travel is at the end of the road, but it was super entertaining on how you got there. And it, you know.
and then you've got others like Source Code with I believe that was Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah.
Which just, I can't wrap my head around the fact that, so he's sent back into a simulation and he starts making changes, and then in the simulation they start happening, and I don't, why any of that? Like, I don't,
why think?
No, just no, stop. So, all right, let's wrap up. What's your top 3 movies if you had to recommend time travel movies?
Shit. I didn't really think about that. Well, one other one I was going to say was I had to include Rick and Morty. I really enjoy Rick and Morty.
Oh, you know what? I didn't want to talk about it because I'm waiting for season 3 to come out.
Yeah.
And it's never coming out.
No.
And if I had a time machine, I would go and get it.
Yeah. But that one I really enjoy. I had hoped that you had watched it, or we got to enlighten the people out there that Rick and Morty is not a children's show. Not
No.
a children's show at all. Because a lot of people
based
think
loosely
that.
on Back to the Future.
Yeah, that's how it started, but it gets so much better. It's so good.
It's so much darker.
Yeah, so much darker and so great. I was gonna do my Rick impression, but never mind.
Do it.
No, I can't do it. I'm put on the spot. Anxiety. I can't. I was just gonna burp. Yeah, Marty. Yeah,
Marty. Marty.
McFly.
I'm sorry. I'm channeling the original sketches on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Yeah, when it was still about
when they go back to the future. Oh.
But yeah, definitely the last thing I guess we'll say about time travel was I'm sure we'll come back to it. I mean, time travel, I'm sure is going to be a topic we can maybe make this part 1 for now, or maybe we'll go off on something else later, some other episode. But there's definitely a whole lot more to time travel than what we said. Somebody that reached out to me when I tweeted about it was who was it? Time Travel Nexus. So if you go to timetravelnexus.com, they have a catalog of almost all things time travel. All the movies that mention time travel, all books, comics. They sent me links and I was just like, whoa, there's way more than I thought.
Oh yeah.
So if you go to timetravelnexus.com or find them on Twitter, I give a big shout out to them for sending me links to things to go and wrap my brain around time travel. So big shout out to them. Shout out to Rick and Morty. Love Rick and Morty. It's so good. But that's something that works, right? Well,
yeah.
Multiverse, whatever. Multiverse is a thing. But yeah, when they had to kill themselves in a different universe and take over their lives because they fucked up their, timeline. Great.
What a great plot device that is, though.
Yeah, and then he has to deal with it. My favorite line is when Morty is talking to his sister pretty much after. He's like, you see that in the backyard? That's me. I had to kill myself. And he's just like, no, nothing matters. We're not supposed to be anywhere. Nothing, whatever. Just go watch TV.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like, whoa. That's
such
fantastic.
a downer that show is sometimes. I love it.
It's great. So yeah. I mean, that's some of our thoughts on some time travel stuff. I mean, there's a ton more, I'm sure. Why don't you not text? You don't have my number, huh? Why don't you go tweet us? Find us on Facebook and Instagram if you want to talk some more time travel stuff. Recommend us something that we didn't mention on the show.
Point out what we got wrong. Yell at us, scream at us. We don't care. Yeah, tell us how much Hook is a better movie than anything else.
Keep doing that. Hook, what is it? Bangarang 2017. Make that a hashtag.
I'm sure we'll talk about it next week with Tim, too, because he's not one to let things go.
Yeah, so find us on all the things, all the social media, Nerdy Things Pod, at Nerdy Things Pod on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to send us some stuff or suggestions for what we should talk about in our coming episodes, nerdythingspod@gmail.com is where you can do that. I'd like to thank Adipsia for our theme song. Friends Don't Let Friends Go to TGI Fridays. You can find more music by him on adipsia.bandcamp.com. Yeah, that's that. So I think we already know what we're going to talk about next week, right? Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, next week it's going to be Nintendo Switch, which I believe comes out Friday. I'm going to be heading over to Tim's house. I'm going to bring my recording gear. We're going to sit down. We're going to chat. It's going to be hopefully phenomenal, but unfortunately, I don't have a time machine, so I don't know for sure.
Yeah, so we're going to talk all things Nintendo Switch. He's going to have it. We're going to see his views on it, maybe talk about what Nintendo's doing. What the hell? What the hell? What the hell they're doing. So good, the bad. We'll hear our views. You'll hear our views on it. And if you want to send us stuff about that, how you're liking your Switch, if you got it, find us on all the things as well. And
There you go.
yeah, that's it from me.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.